2 o'clock.
Okay, you know what that means, 2 o'clock. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with our final iPhone class. This is class number 16, all right? 16 classes, that's a lot of classes. So, this should be a really fun class. I have to say I've been looking forward to it for a few days. Our first hands-on class. So, now, if you did get the pictures, if you couldn't get them, that's okay. I'm going to demonstrate some things and you'll learn. But if you did get the pictures, then you can work along with me, and I think you'll learn a little bit more by doing them yourself. But the techniques that you see today are going to they're going to work for you on your own pictures as opposed to my pictures here. Now, one more thing is we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again on Thursday, but it'll be hands-on using the Mac. Okay, so now when we're doing this, let's keep in mind we're using the latest version of Photos on the iPhone, and that's version, well, it's iOS 13. And so some of the things that we're doing today will only work in 13, or they'll work a little bit different in 13 than, say, if you have an older phone that uses 12. Okay, and there is more to Photos than what I'm showing you today. I can't show you everything in an hour. So we hope you'll get your hour's worth here, but there's always room for more. So keep exploring. Okay, so now we should see. Hopefully everybody sees me. Yes, it's working. Thank you. Okay, good. You know, I hate to do a whole hour and have nobody see it. All right, that's no good. Let's just run through what we're going to talk about today first. So first things first, we're going to have some general advice. We're going to work on cropping. Cropping is really overlooked. Cropping is a great way to make a picture better. So we're going to do a lot of cropping. I'm going to show you all the editing tools. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to apply these same tools to a movie file. Now, I couldn't get to a movie file. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our own movie for 30 seconds, and then we'll edit the movie. Okay? So here's the first big clue that nobody ever says, but I'm going to say, is when you're in Photos and you find a picture that you want to work with, like this one. We're going to work with this river picture first, so get that up. One of the nicest things you can do to experiment, and so you're not worried about messing things up, is you can make a duplicate of the picture before you start. So that's what I'm going to do. So if we look down at the bottom, here's the share button. I didn't mean to do it in red. Oh my. Let's change that to blue. Okay. But in that share button, there's an option. So let's go to the share button. And one of the first things you see here is duplicate, right? That worked. Okay, duplicate right here. So when you duplicate it, that means that you can mess up one and you still have another. So let's do that. Let's duplicate it. So the picture that when you duplicate, you are left with the original. But if you just go to the next one, it should be right next to it. Okay, good. So now on the handout, the handout really doesn't do justice to the improvements we've made to these pictures, but at least it'll remind you of what we've done. So when you look at these on the phone, you'll be really quite astounded. So let's go to edit. So edit's up in the top right corner, right here. Let's go there and let's start editing. All right, so somewhat of a refresher here. We know we have three main tools across the bottom. We have a tool for working with brightness and color and contrast and such like that. That's the first tool. That's here. We have another tool for applying filters, and that's this one here. Then the third tool is cropping. Well, like let's start let's start by cropping. This is a nice picture. The problem is that it's too far away, and there's a lot of river, and there's not so much people. So let's go to the cropping tool, the third one. Now, cropping is more than cropping. Cropping is also straightening. So when you go to this very first option within the cropping, you've got these three options here. When you do that, you have the chance to straighten. And what you do is if you put your finger on this slider here and you move back and forth, you'll see that you're twisting the picture around. And there it goes. And I personally don't think this one needed any straightening, so I'm not going to do any of that. But you could if you wanted. And the white dot that's in there, that shows you what 0 is. That's where they started. So if we go back here to 0, we know we're around the button. What I want to do is crop this. So all you do is we'll do it maybe a couple times here. Just grab an edge or a corner and pull it up, and the picture will then sort of fill in to fit the space. So I've cropped it like this. It's not bad. I'm going to crop it a little bit tighter yet. So now we have a picture of people in a river, whereas before we kind of had a picture of a river. Okay, so that's nice to know how to do. Let's look at the tools across the top. These are quite interesting. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to tap that reset in the middle, and we're going to start over. Okay, so when we reset, we have, first of all, on the left, the first button at the top left is a flip. So it just flips it left to right. So if for some reason you would rather have these people facing that way, we can do that. You also have a rotation here. So sometimes you get a picture that maybe it was scanned or maybe it was emailed to you and it's rotated wrong. Well, you tap that button that I've highlighted a few times and it rotates all the way around, 90-degree chunks, as opposed to what we did down at the bottom with the slider where it was any amount that I wanted. Okay, but now we get interesting because the button over here with all these squares and rectangles, this one lets you pick how you're going to do the cropping. So let's tap that now. And you can see down at the bottom, we have several options. Now, we already experimented with the freeform option. That's what we did when we just cropped it the way we wanted it to. But we're going to pick some other ones. For example, if you pick the square one, if I tap where it says square, now no matter what I do, it always stays square. Now, here I've cropped, but I kind of got it in the wrong place, but that's okay. Once you do the crop, you can grab the picture and you can move the picture around inside the frame. So just touch it with your finger and drag it around. Okay, so we have square cropping and we have other cropping as we move along here. You can see we have different aspect ratios that would fit different kinds of media that you might print it on. So, 8x10s, 3x4 or 4x3. You could also, if you pick one, and now you don't need to do this yourself, but I'm going to do this really quickly. I'll pick 8x10. And so now the cropping is guaranteed to always fit an 8x10 aspect ratio. Now, if I do it like this, that's fine. And you can see down here at the bottom, they're assuming that I want the up and down. But if I wanted it sideways, I can turn it this way. And again, I can move it around inside like so. And so now I have something that's going to fit 10 inches across, 8 inches down, or 10 somethings by 8 somethings to fit in an 8x10 frame. Okay, so cropping is great. You've got freeform ones, you've got standard ones, and you can vertical or horizontal. Okay, now what you don't do here is you don't say done. If you say done, if you tap where it says done in the bottom right corner, it takes you all the way back out of editing, and we don't want to do that. If we get out of editing, we have to come back in. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply switch to the image controls here, but we're not going to do it just yet. I just want to remind you that even though we've pulled these edges in, you can see when I do grab the edge again that the rest of the picture is still there. So if I change my mind, I can still grab the picture and move it around, and the rest of the picture is there to be seen. All right? Okay. So you're not chopping it off just yet. Let's go to the tool that I've boxed there, the image color controls, brightness controls, and when we're in there, there are a lot of controls. Now I'm going to swipe across the top, and you should do this too. As you move across, you see, I think there's something like, I don't know, 12 tools. I didn't count them, but where do you even start? Well, where you really start, the easiest way to start is to use the auto enhance, which is this one, this magic wand. So if you use the magic wand, what it does is it tries to adjust everything, and there's a little bit of brightness, a little bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation, a little bit of sharpening, does all these things. But what's nice about it is you can see all of the individual controls that have been adjusted, and then you can either add more of that control or less of that control as you like. So let's start by tapping that magic wand. Okay, and by the way, you probably can hear they're building a big building 2 blocks away from me, and today's the day they are doing iron work, and they are pounding on the steel with big hammers. And so if you hear bong, 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 that's them. For some reason, they didn't want to stop for our class. All right, so when we do this, you can see it looks better already. Now, if you tap the magic wand again, it goes off, and you see, okay, that's what it was, and let's just tap it again, and it's back. But that's not nearly all. When you tap a tool here, you always have the slider here. So if you like what the magic wand did, but you maybe a little bit more, you can push it this way, okay? And it's doing more of what it did. And if I go this way, it's doing more this other way of what it did. So they try to pick the right thing for you, but you can see that you can play with it a little bit, and sometimes you're gonna find one that you like a little bit better. So all of these tools, this is the big advance in iOS 13, all these tools can be adjusted. So how much magic wand do you want? Okay, so we're just going to work through these tools rather quickly. Let's just go across, and as you go across, you can see some of these tools had essentially no adjustment at all, but the ones that have some sort of a little arc to them, that shows you how much of that tool was applied. So let's talk about brilliance. Brilliance is a nice one. If you see, brilliance was, if I turn brilliance on and I do a lot of brilliance, you can see what happens with brilliance. Well, brilliance is about adjusting the light so that different regions of the picture become better. So where it's too bright, they try to dim it. Where it's too dark, they try to lighten it. Here, they didn't think they had to do anything here. So, that's fine. We'll move over. We're going to skip exposure, by the way. The exposure, they didn't do anything to either. So let's go to the next one here, highlights. So what highlights does is it finds things that are too bright and it dims them. So you can see, for example, this area here, very, very bright. And if we grab our little slider, we move it more to the left, you can see some of the bright stuff gets darker. If I go this way, if I go the other way, you can see these ripples get too much bright. This sandbar gets too much bright. So we go back the other way. So you almost always can make a picture better by reducing the highlights, making the things that are too bright a little dark. Okay, let's go to the next one. So the next thing over, shadows. So shadows is the opposite. Shadows, as you move to the right here, we're lightening things. So you can see that the trees in the background, which are in sort of shadow, come back. You don't want to go too far. It kind of washes out. But somewhere, it's good to see a little bit of lightening in the shadow region. So if you've tried to use Photoshop to do this kind of thing before, the problem with Photoshop is you always have to select the part of the picture you want to fix. but Photos does the selecting for you. You say, I want to make the shadows a little bit lighter. They go find the shadows for you. So really quite an advance there. So we'll keep going. Let's go to the next one. Contrast. Well, contrast you want to use very sparingly, but you can see if you go very contrasty, it's artsy, but it's not good. So not too much. If you go too far to the left, it gets all washed out, but it's also kind of artsy. So tend not to mess around too much with contrast. Overall brightness, probably you don't have to do too much with this either. Sometimes a little bit darker is better. Okay, the black point. And we're going to get to practice all these things again, so just bear with me as we work on this one picture. Black point. Black point is the cutoff at which point we say everything darker than this, we're going to call it black. So it helps you, actually helps you with some pictures, not a lot of pictures, like this one, not helping at all, so just leave it where it was. Saturation. Well, saturation we can all understand. I think the more saturation there is, the more color, more of everything there is. So that's getting carried away. You go back the other way, it turns into black and white. Somewhere in there, you can find kind of an old style picture like this. But let's just take what they had. I think it was something like this. Let's go to the next one, vibrance. Okay, what vibrance tries to do, vibrance tries to increase the color. So in some ways it's like saturation, but only in certain areas and not everywhere. So it tries to look for skin tones. It doesn't want to pump those up because they look funny if you get too much saturation there. All right, warmth. Warmth is the difference between blue and yellow. So if we push the slider to the right, it gets more yellowish, and it's warmer. If I move the slider back this away, it gets cooler. So it's sort of related to this one called the one next to it. If we go to the right, the tint. Tint is red and green. So you had blue and yellow for warmth, and the tint is red and green. So one of the ways to sort of learn how these things go is just go to the extreme and see, what does this do? Okay, that's the reddish pink way. Let's go this way. This is the green way. Okay, and if the color was more or less right to begin with, you don't have to do much here. Let's go on to sharpness. So sharpness is really a great one. Sharpness is for the boundaries where one color stops and another color starts. So if we were to look here at the woman here who seems to be taking a picture of us, taking a picture of her, there are very sharp boundaries between her shirt and the water, her arm in the water, her hair in the water. So if we use the sharpness here, we can actually enhance that sharpness. You can see it happening there. It's also happening in the water. But you know, if you've got detail you're trying to bring out, a little bit of sharpness, tell you the truth, I think a little bit of sharpness is always called for with a digital photo. It's always better. And if you wonder what did it look like before, you can simply tap it and it goes off. Tap it again, it comes back. All right. Now we'll look at definition too. I'm going to pinch this back out. Definition is it's something like sharpening, but it's not quite. So sharpening was about the difference between two edges, and it basically makes the edges more different. So the hair and the water became more defined. With definition, it's more about a region, like the water, like a shirt, like skin, like any kind of fabric. So if we use the definition here, you'll see the water improves if you want it like that. But that's where the definition is. Now I kind of like that the water isn't the focus of this picture, that the focus is the people. So I'm gonna leave it like that. All right, moving on, noise reduction. Okay, what noise reduction does to some degree is it blurs the picture. So sometimes you take a picture and it's kind of grainy, maybe because the light wasn't good, or maybe because that's how the picture was delivered to you from an older camera. And so noise reduction, what happens here when you use noise reduction is you smooth out things, but you start to lose detail too. So you want to use that with some care. So the last one is the vignette. Now vignette it's not a very strong vignette feature, but the idea is that it kind of paints in the corners with sort of a fuzzy black if you go this way. So it's kind of a little, artistic effect. If you go the other way, it paints them in with sort of a white, lighter vignette. So I'm gonna leave it like this. Okay, so anyhow, we've made this picture, and I'm pretty happy with this picture. So I'm going to tap where it says done, and we're gonna move on to our next picture. When you do this done, just remember, if you wanna flip back to see what our picture looked like before, if you did do the duplicate, this was it, and this is it. It's a whole different picture. Okay, so anyhow, there you go. Let's move on to this nice picture. This is statue of Santa Monica in Santa Monica. So let's do what we did before. We'll tap it, we'll go down to the share button, and we'll duplicate it. So we have one to fool around with. Now, of course, when you make a change to a picture, you can come back and revert it all the way back to what the original was. But I just want to have it so we can go back and forth rather quickly. Okay, so let's go to edit again. This one is just slightly not straight. If you notice the horizon there where the water is, it's just a little bit slanting down to the left. So let's try to fix that. So let's use what we know. We're going to tap the cropping tool down there at the bottom, and let's just rotate this the wrong way. But now you see the lines that are there help you to line it up, and it's just slightly off. But now we've done it. Now let's crop it a little bit. Let's go freehand. All right, we'll crop it like this, so it's more of a picture of the statue, and move it around in there. And now let's go enhance this. So we'll go to our image adjustment tools down here, and while we're there, let's I'm going to just hit the magic wand. Better already. Okay, really nice. So I see we might have a question. Yes, photos on the iPhone is different than Google Photos by quite a bit. Yes. So here's a picture. Maybe we make this just a little bit lighter. So when I hit the magic wand, you see it did what it did. Let's just try the lazy way, is to push the magic wand one way or the other. That looks like the wrong way. Let's go the other way. That's the wrong way too. So let's leave it where they put it, but let's just move over to shadows. I'm just going to lighten this up just a little bit. As you can see if I go really far, you can see how it's going to be, but we're not going to go that far. We're just going to go a little bit. Now, if we wonder what it used to look like, that's what it was without shadows. Okay, let's put our shadows back on. But if you just tap the picture, remember, if we tap the picture anywhere on the picture, we see what it was, and you see what it is. So that's what it was. This is what it is. And you could perhaps make this a little bit brighter. I think I will. I don't usually do this, but a little bit brighter, and it looks nice. So there's one. We're done. Let's move on. Okay. Now I want to show you a different kind of cropping adjustment. Let's move on to our next picture. So here we have a picture of some school somewhere in England, I think. And the problem with pictures like this is when you take a picture of a building and it seems like it leans backward. So we want to bring it back. It also kind of slants inward like this. So it's usually not what people remember when they take the picture. They say, hey, I remember it being a great big wall of building here, but it tips back. Well, we're going to change that. So we'll do what we always do. We'll duplicate, because it's just a habit I want you to get into. Of course, we could throw away pictures when we're done. Let's work on the duplicate. We'll go to edit. Now let's go to, once again, we'll go down to the cropping, but we're going to use a tool we haven't used before. We're not going to use the first tool. This is the one, the first tool is the one that we use when we're trying to straighten something. And that's, we're basically tipping it, left and right. But we're not going to do that. We want to do something else. What we're going to do is we're going to use this tool here, this perspective tool. So tap that. And now use your slider. And you'll see as you move the slider, I'm straightening out this picture. It's just nuts, okay? It's really fun to do. So that's how you do it. When you do that, you've saved the picture. So what I would do first thing with this picture, I would do exactly what we just did. I'd go to then our automatic magic wand. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. I think it's pretty good as it is. All it needed was cropping. All right, we're done. Let's move on. Everybody, I see someone's raised their hand here. That is cool. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's really cool. And it doesn't, you don't need it every day, but when you need it, it's the only way to do it. Okay, let's, page 2. We're rolling. Okay, we're going to work on this picture here. So I'm done here. We're going to go to our next picture, just moving across. Okay, so this is my friend Mark on the left, and his friend on the right, I forget his name, and then fellow barbecue contest competitor in the middle. These guys won some award for cooking, chicken or pork ribs or something. So this is the picture I got. It's not a very good picture, and we're going to try to rescue this because I can't go stage this picture again. We got to fix this one. I don't even remember if I took it, but whoever took it, it's blurry. It's indoors. It's a big yuck. So first thing we'll do, what do we always do? We tap share and we go to duplicate, and now we work on our duplicate. Let's go to edit. I'm going to crop this like I always do. Now they try to straighten this automatically. Okay, Apple thinks that that's straight. I think it's not straight, and the reason I think it's not straight is because the door frame's leaning. So I'm going to undo that. That happened automatically, and it's not my favorite part of this, but let's just tuck this in a little bit and get it so it's the guys and more guys and less wall. Okay, now let's go back to our adjustments again. So we'll go to auto, and it's pretty good already. They've already improved the color because that back wall looked yellow and they looked yellow. It wasn't so good. Now, if you remember, we have an adjustment for warmth, which changes us between blue and yellow. So we could back off on that. So why don't we move over to warmth? Here's our warmth. And you can see already, if you look at down here at the bottom, you can see that what they've done is, if that dot is 0, sort of neutral, they've gone quite a bit away from yellow. So let's do that a little bit more, and you'll see even more. So now this actually doesn't look quite so bad. Okay, now we do need a little bit of sharpening here. This one, look, the picture's blurry. We may be able to make it a little bit better with a little bit of sharpening. So let's go to the next 2 tools over, sharpness. Let's try to sharpen this guy. And you'll start to get a little bit of detail here. Now you can't make something out of nothing, but it's better. And if you're not sure, look at the beard on my friend Mark on the left. See, it's all a big blur here. So when you tap it, remember you tap it and you see what you had, and now you see what you've got. Okay, so let's continue. So that looks pretty good, and I'm gonna leave it at that. When I did 2 pictures on your handout, and what I did there is I went to the filters. So we haven't visited the filters yet. Let's go there now. And you can see these filters kind of do a whole bunch of stuff for you. So if maybe one of these, kind of an old-timey picture like this, maybe this would rescue our bad picture. But this might be nice too. And it kind of covers up a lot of mistakes in the original photo. So there you go. So I'll say done to that. We'll keep it like that. Let's go to our next photo. Now this is a very interesting picture. This picture, it's an interesting picture to work with, is what I mean. And what's interesting about it is that tower. That tower in the back at the farmer's market does not lean like that. But we got to straighten it out, and I'm going to show you what happens when we straighten it out. So let's do what we always do. We'll share it. We'll go to the sharing button. We'll hit duplicate. Now it turns out that I had to download this, but it got it. So here's what you probably think you should do based on what you've seen so far. You would go to edit, and you would go to crop, and you would rotate it like this. The problem is, if you rotate it, it introduces some other problems. It looks like the whole picture is leaning from right to left. Like look at the roof here. Look at the roof in the background. So I haven't even gotten the building straight yet, but the whole thing is tipped. And that just can't be. Look at the way people stand. They're all leaning over. That can't be right. So we're not going to do that, okay? We're not going to straighten this one this way. We're going to use something else we just learned, which is our perspective adjustments. So let's tap perspective adjustment here. Get the right one. The one in the middle, I think, is the one I want. And let's straighten it out this way. So when you do this, and I'm not going to crop it, I'm going to leave it up like this. See, now this picture is way better than the one I had a minute ago. If I put that back, it just reminds you, we tried to straighten it this way, and everything looks like it's slanting. Everything's slanting that way, and it looks weird, and you can't really get it right. Even if I get the building right, everything else is wrong. So this is another case where you use the perspective and you bring it back. Okay, so now this looks like the picture that I remember, and there you go. So now all this cropping. You know, eventually you run out of picture when you start to do some of these adjustments for straightening and perspective. You run out of picture, and so eventually you, like if I rotated it, let's say I did this. If I rotate it, you can see the outline of the picture way up there and way down here. But I can't make this picture as big as it used to be because I would be in the black. I'm off the page, right? I'm off the picture. So what you have to do is you have to compromise. You have to get a smaller picture because you've twisted this picture to make it do what you want to do. Well, that's the way it is for all of us, except for those lucky people who have iPhone 11s. Any kind of an 11, there's an option where you can, when you take a picture, it takes a picture beyond what you think you're taking a picture of. It takes more outside the boundary. So then when you do these rotations, you still have extra pixels. So it's really rather amazing. And they do this without telling you, but you have to first tell them in the settings, in the camera section. So you go settings, camera, and then you tell it to do that. It's a great feature because it lets you, it gives you more flexibility with your rotations and cropping. So you may wonder about how that affects the size of the photo. Well, of course it makes the photo bigger, but in 30 days, if you haven't done anything with it in 30 days, they trim away the stuff that's outside the frame and they throw it away. So it's a really neat feature when you know how it works. Okay, onward to the beach. We're gonna go to so we're done with this picture. You learned how to straighten that out, that's great. On to this beach picture. So I'm gonna do, what do I always do? Yes, you're right, I'm gonna duplicate it, just so I have it, so I can go back and look. Okay, so we'll work on the duplicated one. Now this picture, even though it says it was taken today at 2 p.m., it's not really true. It was added to this album and I manipulated the date. But this is actually a picture taken long ago with a camera that was not an iPhone. So the picture is sort of the state of the art at that time. And I thought I took the picture. I thought it was very artsy and great, but it's not very good at all. So we're gonna fix it. And the way we're gonna fix it is, since we've duplicated, let's go to edit. First things first, we're gonna crop. We always crop first. And it'd be sensible to straighten this a little bit because the pier doesn't go up into the air. It actually slants down a little bit into the water. So just a little bit like that. Then I'm gonna crop it. I'm gonna make this, really the only interesting part about this picture is the pier. So I'm gonna drop this down quite a bit like this, and I'm gonna pull this up like this. So I've got a much more interesting picture, I think, at this point. So I can still maybe go out a little bit on the sides here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. I can sort of pinch this there. Okay, so this is a great start to our picture. And I think the part on the right's not as interesting either, so I'm gonna pull this like this. Okay, so now I have a good start to our picture. Let's go down to our image adjustment tools down here, this section, and let's do, what do we always do? We always do the magic wand to see if it's better. No, it is better. It's not fantastically better. Now, while you're editing, you can, reverse pinch to zoom in and see what you've got. A good idea to do. I can see we need a lot of sharpening here. And I'm even going to try to do a little bit more with the magic wand here to see if I can make this better in sort of a lazy way. And how it does it is very complicated, but and I would tell you if I knew, okay? But I just know it's complicated. I read the programmer notes for how Photos works. I don't know how I lucked into finding it, but it's a fantastic document, and believe me, it's complicated. So this is good. I still think I'm going to let me zoom back out and make sure I've got my picture the way I like it. I think I'm going to move this. Let me go back to my cropping. I think I'm better off like this. So you see the grid on the screen when I move this when I'm in the cropping mode. This has divided my image into thirds, and there's a theory called the rule of thirds that says that if you have something in your picture and it either lands on either the top line or the bottom line or on an intersection especially, then that tends to be where people's eyes tend to go, and so it makes for a better picture. So they suggest that you crop more like this than putting the picture, if I put it right in the middle, not as interesting, okay? If it's perfectly balanced, it's not so interesting. You actually want it kind of unbalanced in one way or the other. So I'm gonna take it kind of like that. Okay, so back to our image editing. I think we need to add a little bit of saturation here. So I'm gonna move over and we're gonna look exposure, brilliance. Well, let's try a little brilliance too. This is a light thing again. Yeah, maybe that's better. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. Highlights. Well, remember, I want the highlights. We don't want things to go like super glow in the dark white. So you can see already the highlights here. Here's neutral 0, right? But they've knocked it back a little bit already. I'm gonna knock it back some more. And you see how the water, the foam sort of changes. I mean, this is extreme. I'm not going to go that far, but it brings out detail because the whites don't all blur together. There's different shades of white when you do it like this. Shadows, I don't see any reason to do that. Contrast, maybe. So they've already suggested we do a little bit of extra contrast. If I move it this way, I think I kind of like it a little better. So brightness, it's bright enough, but you see, in fact, they made it darker. So I'm going to go a little darker yet. So basically, I kind of do what they do, and then I do a little bit more. Saturation, maybe. No, that looks like the sky. I remember the water's not right. I'll back up a little bit. Vibrance, we'll again pump up color a little bit. Okay, warmth. So blue to yellow. Remember, blue and yellow in the warmth. I'm going to go toward the yellow side here. If I go the blue side, it's not right. So just warm it up a little bit. Just a little bit. This is our pink and green tint. Pink this way, green that way. Doesn't need much. But this is your picture. You do what you want. So let's move on here. I'm gonna do a little sharpening. So this picture was not a great picture to begin with. It needs sharpening. So I'm gonna sharpen it. You don't want to go too far. It becomes very artificial looking. But like I've said before, every picture can stand a little bit of sharpening. And the definition will help the sand and it'll help the water. So you see how the sand is improved as you move this way over. You don't want to move it too far, but if there's a little bit of improvement, even though it's not as noticeable as when you go all the way to the end, it's still good. It's still it still adds to the picture. So do it. Noise reduction. This picture has noise in it. If we were to zoom way in, you would see that it's got. You see the sky. It's full of sort of chromatic artifacts. It's kind of green and blue and pink and so on. So noise reduction's a way to smooth that out. So I'm gonna smooth this out like so. In a way, I'm undoing some of my sharpening, but if I look at my sky now, it's better. You see, it doesn't look so pixelated. So there you go. There's my picture. I must say done to that. Okay, so remember, this is what I had. This is what I've got. Here's something that I could print this out and put it in a long frame, and you know, that's something. If I didn't like it, remember, I can go back to edit again. It still remembers what I did. If I go to the cropping, I can still move this inside here. Maybe I like it better this way. Okay, so I'm done to that. So it's not an all or nothing. You have to get it right on the first try. But if I decided I didn't like any of it, I wanted to start over, back to edit, and then I'd hit revert in the bottom right corner. Okay, I'm not going to do it. I kind of like it, so I'm just going to cancel out of that. Okay, onward. So here's a nice picture. Our next picture is, oops, I missed a picture. I was looking for a picture of the kids fishing. I'm going to have to dig around a little bit. Bring up the picture of the kids fishing, please. And I'll find that myself. Here they are. Okay, so here's this picture. And it's not bad. It's not bad, but let's make it better. So we'll tap the magic wand. It's better. Look, when I turn it off, it's like this. If I turn it on, it's like this. It's better already. I could leave it just like that. And in fact, I'm going to look at the difference in the fish. The fish gets some color in the tail. The kids are bright. I'm gonna leave it just like that. Good, we finished one. That was an easy one, huh? Okay, now let's look at, we'll find our other picture, this Golden Gate Bridge picture. So I have to go find it myself. Here we go. I was almost right on top of things. Okay, so Golden Gate Bridge. So this is actually, it's actually a very interesting picture. I like this picture to begin with, but we're going to improve it. All right, at least I think so. So the way I improved it on your handout is I went black and white. So what are we going to do? Anyone? Of course, what we're going to do. We are going to hit the share button and we're going to duplicate it. Like this pictures are free, right? You can have gobs of them. So just go ahead and do it, right? So now let's edit the duplicate picture. We'll go to edit. So for one thing, it's a little bit not quite straight. Now I don't know if one end of the Golden Gate Bridge is higher than the other. I don't know why it would be, but I'm going to try to straighten this. So I'm going to tap the cropping again, and they've straightened it for me. Okay, thank you, Apple. They found the line of the bridge and they straightened it. And this is another picture where I think it's better in a narrower kind of aspect ratio. So I'm going to crop it myself. You just do it any way you want. But so the usual routine is grab like this. I liked a lot of water in front of it, not so much sky in the back, something like this. All right, so you crop it the way you like it and make sure that straightening is the way I want it to. Okay, that's pretty close. There. Okay, so I've got the basic cropping down. Now let's change some of the colors. So we'll go down to our adjustments down here, like we always do, and we do whatever you want to do. So what I did is the first I magic wanded it, and it got kind of dramatic, which I liked. And then I went over here. I think I went to the filters. And I went through these filters and until I found one that just told me to stop, basically. So you see there's a lot of neat ones here. And I think I may have done that one, but I think I did this one. So, and remember, each one of these has options too. So if I pick this filter, I've got a slider that adjusts. Here's applying the filter not at all. Here's applying the filter a little. Here's a lot of that filter. So you've got to watch for these different options down here. When you pick a filter, remember that there's a slider to control the amount of the filter. All right. So I'm going with this one, and I'm going with a lot of it. And so now I've got this sort of old-timey picture. And, you know, they were both good. I like the original too, but this is nice like this. Let's move on to the next one. So that was good. Okay. Last but not least on our pictures is we have a nice picture of a windmill in a field of mustard. Okay. So, you know, one of the nice things about this is that, you know, I can't go back and take this picture again because that day will never be just like this, and maybe the mustard won't have grown up, but we can rescue these pictures. And so we kind of have to. So this is why we got to learn this stuff. So I'm going to duplicate this picture, go to duplicate again. I'm going to move over and work on the duplicate here. So go to edit again. So maybe a little cropping just for the fun of it, just to stay sharp. Make sure I don't lose my touch here. You know, make sure that it's about the windmill, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see, something like that. Okay, so here's my picture. Now, what are we going to do about this? It kind of I don't like the shade of yellow. It's not the way I remember it. It was more bright yellow, and the sky wasn't so washed out. So let's fix that. So what do we do every single time? We're going to go to the image adjustment tools down here, and a question's been raised here about does duplicating diminish the integrity of the original in some way? No, not at all. That's why we do it. The original therefore stays there the way it was, so we can go back to it if we need another chance in case we really mess up. Okay, so let's try our auto. And it's better, but it's not great. I mean, it's also kind of blurry. The windmill's blurry. The mustard's blurry, and the sky is not blue. So we know something about blue. If we want blue, we want to adjust warmth. So let's move over here to all the way over here to warmth, and there's warmth. So remember, if you go this way, more yellow. Go this way, it's more cool. Okay, so I'm going to try to split the difference here. So I've made the sky better. The sky's better. It's more blue, right? Now let's see if I can get rid of that green with the tint in the next button over. So let's move over one. Here's tint, and I'm going to push the tint away from green, which is this way, and that seems to be better. Okay, I don't want it quite that pink, but somewhere in there, I've gotten better. We need to sharpen this. The blades of this windmill are, see how blurry. So let's move on to the next tool, the sharpness, and let's add some sharpness, and you can see better. You see how it forces the edges to become sharper. The difference between the blades and the sky becomes really enhanced. And you can't go too far. You can't rescue. You can't make something out of nothing. But you can make something good out of something that was not so good. I'm also going to do the definition. I'm going to back out here so you can see what happens when we do definition. It's going to affect the sky, which is, you see a little texture in the sky, but not much. Let's move on definition here. We're going to slide like this. As I go further and further and further, those clouds come out a little bit. You see here, they're not there at all. Here they're a little bit better. We can do more with that. Let's pick another tool. I'm going to pick our contrast, and let's see if I push the contrast up a little bit. You see the clouds are maybe a little bit better, and the picture, a little more dramatic. So somewhere in there, you have to decide: are you trying to make something that exactly replicates what you saw, or are you trying to make something that's pleasing to you when you print it and put it on the wall? So sometimes it's both, but it doesn't have to be. And no one's going to go out there and tell me that those flowers weren't that color, so your picture's no good. I like it. Okay, so there you go. So I'm going to say done to that. So we have done 9 photos today. All right, that's good work. Now we're going to do a movie. Now I could not figure out a way to let you download a movie of mine. So what I'd like you to do now is switch to your camera and take a movie that lasts for let's say 30 seconds. Okay, so I will wait. I will bring up my movie. The movie I'm going to use is right here. But I'm going to have you. You can go to the camera. All right, so look, camera, find video, and just take a picture. Take a movie. Pan around your house, whatever you want to do. Take a picture of yourself, a movie of yourself, and make it go for about 30 seconds. Okay, and then I want you to view it. So after you watch it, tap in the bottom left corner to bring it up, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do it because I only want a 30-second movie. All right. The duplicating. So someone's asked me again, since I keep talking about duplicating, what we're doing. The reason we did it so many times is because I wanted you to see it at least once. So what we do, when you look at a picture or a movie or whatever it is you're looking at, you tap the share button at the bottom left. All right, that button down here. And one of the options in there when you do it is duplicate. There it is, down at the bottom right now. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate my movie. And so I'm hoping you're ready to go. Now remember, when we're doing this stuff, I kind of could have shown you that you can rotate your phone horizontally and do all the work in there too. So most of our pictures were really oriented. They were oriented horizontally. I could have done sideways. All the controls are still there, and they work exactly the same. I'm just more accustomed to doing it up and down like this. Okay, so here I have this movie, and I'm gonna play it for you, and you can see what's wrong with this movie. Let me pause it at the bottom here. I'm gonna turn on the sound, which is currently muted right here. I don't know if you're gonna hear it, but all right, so that's my movie. Now, if I pan back across here, I'm gonna take it from the beginning because the beginning is the good part. Okay, now it deteriorates. Now I get shaky. I don't know what I was doing. Looks like I was taking a drink of coffee with the same hand that's holding the phone. So I want to fix this. All right, we want to fix this. And first thing we'll go to edit. And before I go to edit, you can see I can run through the movie like this, and you can see there's an interesting part where at the beginning where these people are exercising as a group, and they've got these flags and these sticks, and they bang them, and it's very, it's ballet out there. This was in San Francisco before the last Macworld show, as I recall. So the Macworld Expo was in the building, I think, behind there, and I just happened to luck into seeing these people exercising in the morning. Let's go to edit. So we go to edit. If you ignore the first tool here, this camera, these are our old friends. We know all of these. So let's use some of these. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to crop this a little bit. One problem with this movie is that I'm too far away. So I'm going to use the cropping tool here, as you can too, and I'm going to crop so it's more, the people can be seen as people and not just something else. So you see, it's made a better thing for me. Okay, so I'll leave it like that. So those tools are there, and if I need to straighten, I've got straightening tools. If I need to go to adjust brightness and so on, which I probably do, I have my adjustments here. So let's just do this on your video too, whatever it is. And I'm going to touch auto, and it's going to try to do some things. And as I move my slider here, you can see it's brightening, darkening, doing things. I'm going to make it like this. I'm going to guess that that's fine. But we could work through all of these tools, and it would do what we're used to it doing. But we're going to focus on the one tool we don't know anything about, is this camera. So when you touch the camera, what you see here is a play button, and we see also a sort of a timeline of the whole movie. So we also see up at the top left, by the way, we see a speaker button. So you don't have to listen to it while it plays. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play it. Okay. So I'm going to pause it here. It's become bad, and as I move on my way, the rest of the way, as I drag, if I were to drag through this movie, as I'm just putting my finger on the bar and moving back and forth, you can see it just gets really bad. Eventually, I'm taking pictures of the ground. Terrible, terrible. But it's good up to about here, up to about 9 seconds. It's really pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it in. So what we do is we grab a handle. I'm going to grab the right handle. I'm going to pull it in. So that's what I want you to do. So when you touch that handle, it should turn yellow. Okay, let's see here. As I start to drag, it turns yellow, and I can see the movie is playing, and I can also see the time is going. I know that I was good till about here. And so I'm going to let go here. Now if I play what I've got, let's tap this. You probably notice it's not so good at the very beginning either. So I'm going to pull that in from the beginning because I was shaky right there at the beginning. And I can see you see me moving the camera up and down as I kind of got settled here. Now I'm good. About 1 second and I'm good. And I think I want to see if I can end this a little bit better. So I'm grabbing the right one. See if I can pull this over. Let's see if I'm still okay here. So let's play this. So I'm going to play this one and let's see what I got. Great. Okay. I'll settle for that. So I've been able to edit this movie, and now I've got something I like. So, and it's also shorter. It's more likely to get, okay, if you have a problem in the middle, fine, pull it in from both sides, right? And you're trimming off the fat. So I'm going to say done here. Now, when you do done, you have the chance to save it and wipe out the one you were working on, or to save it as a new clip. So because of this, we really didn't need to duplicate it first, did we? The photos we did, but the videos always give you the chance when you're in iOS 13 to save it as a new clip. Previously, what they did is they just wiped out the old clip. So if it was 15 seconds to begin with, it would now be 8 seconds, and that other stuff is never there for you to get again. So we're going to, I'm going to save this. It's a good habit to say save as a new clip. This means I'm going to have 3 of them, right? I'm going to have the original, and then the duplicate, and then this one. So if I went back, this is our short clip, I think. No, that's not my short one. Where's my, I put it in the wrong place. Let me just go get it. Don't move. If I look in the albums and I look in our, my media here, I should see that video. Here it is. Look, it's brighter, it's shorter, it's less wiggly. Nice. And if I went to edit here, I do have revert down there in the bottom right corner, so I could put it back. But this is so good, I like it like this, I'm gonna leave it. All right, friends, that concludes our class for today. And we have one more on Thursday. And how did I grab the edge? That's Joanne. Look, you just put your finger on it and start dragging. Okay, put your finger on the white handle and start dragging, and the yellow handles will appear and go with you. Okay, that's it. Anyone got any questions about today? Email me. I hope I see you again on Thursday. We're going to do similar things, but we're going to do them on the Mac. Okay, so we'll be using Mac OS Catalina 15. 10.15, but again, a lot of the stuff I show you, the concepts will work on just about any version of Photos, but there are things that are different about Mac's Photos in Mac OS Catalina. So it's a little bit different. And what you know here, the concepts carry over, but the tools are all different. Okay. All right. Thanks again for coming. I had a really great time. This is a class I was looking forward to for a long time, and it turned out, in my opinion, I think this was really fun. Okay. Bye-bye.